Hello. I am the Linux Mitch. In my last video, I talked about the end of life for Windows 10, which is coming in October. And I recommended that Windows users who are thinking of switching to Linux to find software and applications that work in Windows and Linux and to play with them and experiment with them and get themselves used to using different software and accustomed to using software that they could use in Linux. Today, I'm going to talk about the Linux distribution that I recommend new users use. Now, there's over 100 different Linux distributions, so today I'm going to take a look at one. So, let's get to it. So right now, this is my bare metal computer, and I'm running Arch Linux with the awesome window manager. Now, if you've never used Linux and you've been in Windows for many years, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. And I don't recommend new users use Arch Linux. Now, I have a website open up. Now, this is my bare metal computer. It's not a virtual machine. We're going to go to Workspace 1. And I have Firefox, my web browser, opened up. And it's opened up to DistroWatch. And DistroWatch is a page where you can get a lot of information on different Linux distributions. Like I mentioned in my introduction, there's over 100 different types of Linux distribution. And this website, I know it's really old-fashioned. It looks like it's something from the 1980s. You know, they have frames and everything, but they give you a lot of information on different Linux distributions. So here, page hit ranking last 6 months. You can see here, let's just scan right down. They have 100 Linux distributions, and they're ranked from 1 to 100. And right now, Linux Mint is number 1. Now, MX Linux was number 1 for many years, as long as I've been using Linux. And Manjaro used to be number 2. And for some reason, Linux Mint went to number 1. Now you have to take this with a huge grain of salt because they're ranking. And of course, if you change it to 1 month, right now it's at 6 months. If you change it, you can change it to a year, whatever year you want to look at, or the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, 7 days. By default, it's on 6 months. But like I said, you have to take this with a huge grain of salt because they're not tracking how many people actually download and install a particular Linux distribution and how long a person uses a Linux distribution on their computer or in a virtual machine before they get tired of it and move to another Linux distribution. So there is a term called distro hopping, and it's a person who installs one Linux distribution in a computer, and a short while after that, they get tired of it, they erase their computer, format their hard drive, and they install another Linux distribution, and they keep installing different Linux distributions. It's called distro hopping. Like I was saying, this website, this page hitting rank is a page hitting rank. So they're only tracking people who click on these links on their website to read about a particular Linux distribution. So like I said, they're not tracking how many people actually install a particular Linux distribution and how long the person stays on that Linux distribution before going to another Linux distribution or even back to Windows. Okay, so right now Linux Mint is number 1, but it used to be number 2 and number 3. But like I said, you take this with a huge grain of salt. Anyways, I recommend a person coming from Windows who never used Linux before to use Mint, Linux Mint. So I already have it up on another tab here on my web browser, so let's go to the Linux Mint webpage. So Linux Mint was my first Linux distribution. I've been using Linux for 5 years, and I had Linux Mint running on 2 bare metal computers. And just in case you don't know, I say bare metal computers because I want to distinguish between a real computer and a virtual machine. Like I said, 5 years ago, I had Linux Mint was my first Linux distribution. I had it running on 2 bare metal computers, and those computers One I purchased in 2011. The other one I purchased in 2012. And both of them only had 4 gigs of RAM. And it ran fine. Ran way better than Windows 10. Because I had upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, but only stayed on Windows 10 for a month. And then I went to Linux Mint. Now, a lot of Linux YouTubers recommend first-time Linux users coming from Windows go to Linux Mint. But there are some Linux YouTubers who say you shouldn't go to Linux Mint as your first one. There are other ones that are better. So it's a little bit debatable. Now, the thing I like about Linux Mint is, well, there's a lot of things I like about it. It's been around for many years. I'm not sure if it's 10 years old. Might be older than 10 years. I'm not sure. Been around for a long time. They have a really good team. It's rock solid. Most likely not going to break. It comes installed with a lot of fantastic default software and apps. It has a good software center. It actually comes with 2 software centers. And it's a lot like running Windows XP. It's very similar to Windows XP or Windows 7 maybe. And so if you migrate from Windows to Linux Mint, you're not going to get culture shock or computer shock, okay? You're going to be able to learn how to use it. If you can install it, and installing it's not hard, and I'm not going to go through an install in this video, and I've gone through installs before on my channel. I have a lot of videos on my channel, and I've gone through several Linux Mint installs, and I'll probably do another one, but I'm not going to go through that today. And what I'm going to do is take you to a virtual machine of Linux Mint and just give you a tour of it. So like I was saying, I highly recommend Linux Mint to be your first Linux distribution if you're coming from Windows. And Linux Mint is not only for new users, those new to Linux. There are a lot of experienced Linux users who love Linux Mint and use it. So it's not just for beginners. I'm going to give you a tour of it. So I have Linux Mint because on my main computer I'm running Arch Linux, but that's another story. I have a virtual machine of Linux Mint up, so let's go to it. This is Linux Mint. You look down here at the bottom, we have the date and time. It's Wednesday, January 1st at 10:49 a.m. January 1st, so Happy New Year. And I wish everyone that watches my videos, I wish all people a good, healthy, happy New Year. Now, so like I said, there's the date and time. This is the volume control. I have a weather app here. You can see it's 2 degrees Celsius and it's cloudy. And I can click it on and it goes up and it's showing. Oh no, now you're going to know where I live. I'm in Toronto, Canada. It's overcast. Temperature is 2 degrees Celsius. Humidity is 89%. The winds are 24.9 kilometers per hour from the northwest. Feels like -4 Celsius. Shows today, tomorrow, and Friday. Sunrise is at 7:51 a.m. Sunset is at 10 to 5 p.m. And then I can hit this arrow and bring up even more. And I can see hourly rates for the weather. Okay. And this weather app doesn't come installed by default. You have to install it, but it's really easy to install. All you're going to do is right-click on your bar. You're going to go to Applets. You're going to go to Download. Okay, and it's going to download all the new applets. I should have did this before. I don't know why I did it now. And then you're going to go to Manage. Oh, once you downloaded them, there's going to be an arrow. Now, I already downloaded it before. I shouldn't have. I should have waited till I turned on the camera. But there's going to be like, let's say, for instance, this app. Let's say you wanted to download it. You would highlight it and click on that arrow. Okay. My face was in the way. You would click on this arrow and let it download. Now, the weather app, I already downloaded it off camera. So there's no arrow there, and you can see there's a check mark there, so it means it's downloaded. But if we wanted to download this, let's say the spices one, I don't even know what that is. I never used it. You would highlight it, click the arrow, and let it download. So once you highlight the weather app, click the arrow and let it download, then you're going to go to manage, and you're going to highlight the weather app again, and you're going to hit the plus sign. Okay. Now I'm not going to hit the plus sign because it's already installed. And the weather app is automatically going to read your region and where you live. And that's it there. And there's ways to format it, but I'm not going to get into that now. Okay. Linux Mint comes automatically installed with a lot of apps. You have your start menu here. And I'm going to go to Internet. So it comes with Firefox already installed. Okay. And let's close it. And we also have Firefox pinned to the panel. So I can click it there and open it this way. Let's close it. And you also have it here. You have it up here. I'm going to click it on. Let's click it on again. I know, keep opening up the web browser is not really that exciting, right? Now, you can also have it pinned to your desktop. So let's say you want to have apps pinned to your desktop. What you could do is right-click the desktop, click on Customize. Let's make that big screen. Let's go to Desktop Settings. And right here, we have a menu. And let's just move this around. So we have a menu here. It says Show Desktop Icons on Primary Monitor Only. You can change that to no desktop icons, because I don't like icons on my desktop. Desktop on icons on primary monitor, or show, let's say the bottom one, show desktop on all monitors. Okay. Now you can decide what you want to have. So let's click on the computer. Let's click on my home directory. How about the trash can? Let's click it on. And my network. No, I don't want my network. And show icons. Okay, so let's leave it the way it is. And let's close it. So there's my icons. There's my home directory. I can click that on. Takes me to my file manager. I can also go to my file manager from down here. Okay. Now, let's say, and there's my trash can. I have nothing in it. Now, let's say I want to pin Firefox on my desktop. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on the Start menu. I'm going to go to Internet. I'm going to go to Firefox browser. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to add to desktop. And there it is. It's not pinned to my desktop. Okay. And there it is. Now, let's say I want to pin another app to the panel. So I'm going to go here. And what should I pin to the panel? I'm going to pin Rhythmbox to the panel. So I'm going to click on Rhythmbox. It's a music player, by the way. So I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to add to panel. So now Rhythmbox is on the panel. And then I can go back to it. Let's go back to it. Sound and video. Rhythmbox, like I said, is a music player. Let's pin it to the desktop as well. Add to desktop. Okay, so let's just open it up. So this is Rhythmbox. It's a music player. I don't have any music in here because this is a virtual machine. And I wouldn't want to show any music in there anyways because I don't want to get a strike. And of course, you just close Windows. My face was blocking the top, right? Just close Windows the way you would in Windows. Or you close your apps and software the way you would in Windows. Okay? So let's say I want to get rid of my desktop icons. I'm going to right-click anywhere on this main screen. I'm going to do Customize, Desktop Settings. And I'm going to just change this menu to no desktop icons. Okay? And I'm going to close it. And I'm going to close it. Okay? Now, one more thing about these icons. This little area here is a quick start menu. So there's my file manager there as well. Okay. And let's say I want to put, now there's not a lot of room here, right? So let's say I want to remove something from this panel and put something else there. I could, let's remove the file manager. Okay. So I'm going to go into Files. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to remove it from Favorites. Okay. So now see I have more space here because this part is called Favorites. So you can put icons on the desktop, icons on the bottom panel, or icons in Favorites. Now there's not a lot of room in Favorites. So what can I put in Favorites? I'm going to put Calc. Now this comes, Linux Mint comes with a full Office suite called Libre Office. Now there are other Office suites in Linux. There's only Office, and I think there might be a few more. But it comes with Libre Office fully installed. It's like I said, it's a full Office suite. The only things I ever used in LibreOffice were this one here, LibreOffice Writer, which is like MS Word, and LibreOffice Calc, which is like Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so let's put LibreOffice Writer. Let's pin it to the favorites. Let's go. Where did it go? We're going to go to Office, LibreOffice Writer. Let's right click it. Let's add it to favorites. Okay, now let's go to favorites, and there it is. It's there. Okay. So this is LibreOffice Writer. And let's close that. And let's go to Calc, LibreOffice Calc. This is the spreadsheet program. Okay. Now, if you open up, and I mentioned this in my last video, but I'm going to talk about it again today in this video. If you switch to Linux and you're using LibreOffice, and you don't have to be using Linux Mint, you could be using any Linux distribution. If you're using LibreOffice and you open up an Excel spreadsheet or an MS Word document, it will open it up. You can read it, you can modify it, and you can resave it. But going the other way, if you're using LibreOffice and you open up a brand new spreadsheet or a brand new Word document, it's automatically going to save it in its own format, which will not be readable in Microsoft Office, but you can manually save it as a Microsoft Office document, so it will be readable in Microsoft Office. And you can also set the default to always save it as a Microsoft document. Now, another thing I want to show is, well, there's quite a few things I want to show. So let's say you want to change things to a dark theme. So I'm going to go here. This one here is the settings. And let's make it full screen. And I don't think I'm blocking anything. I'm going to go to themes and I'm going to change it to a dark theme. And also you can change the color of your icons, but I'm just going to leave them the way they are. So now we changed them to a dark theme. So now when we go back into settings, we have a dark theme. Okay. When we go to our file manager, you can see, we have folders for documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, videos, and you can make more folders just like you can in Windows. And of course, the dark theme is on. Now, if you do put it on a dark theme, just so you know, and you go back into LibreOffice, it might not look too great up here. So what you want to do, if you change it to a dark theme, you want to go into Options, go into View, and change this Calibri to Calibri Dark. Okay, and let's apply it. And that's just going to make this a little bit easier to read, because the setting that we had was for a light theme in your computer, and this one works better with the dark theme. Now, if you change your computer to a light theme, you're probably going to want to go back into Options and change this Calibri Dark to plain Calibri. Okay, let's leave it on dark. And when we change the theme the color theme in the writer. It changes it for the spreadsheet program as well. Let's go back to Calc. Okay. And what I showed you, the music player, I'm just going to open it again. So Celluloid is a video player. I don't have any videos in here. So there's really nothing to see. Okay. And Rhythmbox, which I already opened, but I'm going to open it again because now that I have the dark theme on, Rhythmbox is a music player. And there's no music in here. And it works kind of like iTunes. Okay. And now let's say we want to download some programs. So we're going to go to the Software Center. And first, there's two Software Centers here. So first, I'm going to go to the Software Center that doesn't look so nice. So we're going to type in SYN. Synaptic Package Manager is an old Debian software center for Linux. So when we click it on, it's going to ask for a password. I'm going to put the password in. I'm going to close it. And let's do a search for OBS Studio. So OBS Studio is what I use for recording my videos. And OBS Studio is available in Windows and Linux. And I think Mac, but I'm not sure. Let's type it in, search. See if it comes up. And it brings up, I don't know, 800 packages or 2,000. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's just scan down here. There it is, OBS Studio. So we can see because there's no check mark here, it's not installed. I could check it on, mark for installation, mark it, and then I could hit apply. And if I hit apply, it's going to install it. Now, I'm not going to do that. And let's go to Firefox. Let's see if we can bring up Firefox. Here it is right here. So we see Firefox has the green color in it. It's greened out. That means it's installed. I could click it on. I could mark for reinstallation, mark for removal, mark for complete removal, mark it, and then I would hit apply, and it would take Firefox out. But I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to bail out of here. And there are still marked changes. You want to cancel or quit? I want to quit. Now, Linux Mint makes, now that's a Debian package manager. Debian makes their own package manager or software center. And I'm going to go there. So I'm going to right click this on. And this is it here. This green one with the grid. And notice when I highlight here, one of these icons, it tells you down below, it tells you right down here what it is. So let me hover over there. You can see at the bottom here, it says Software Manager. So let's click it on. And it's loading the Software Center. Okay, so this is a lot more prettier and beautiful. And it has some highlighted apps here. There's Discord. You can see Firefox down here. And there's WhatsApp. I never used WhatsApp, so now we can do a search. So let's do a search for Firefox. Firefox, and we can see Firefox here, and there is a green check mark there. It's kind of hard to see because it's really small. I don't know if it's going to show up on the video, but that means it's installed. So let's say I wanted to uninstall it. I would highlight it, and I click on remove. And when I click on remove, it's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to put my user password in, and it's going to remove it, but I don't want to remove it. Okay. Now, let's see if Htop is installed. I love Htop, and I don't think it is. Htop is not installed by default, so let's do a search for it. Let's do Htop, and there it is there. So I'm going to click it on. And I'm going to click on this green button to say install. So I'm going to click it on. Now it's asking me for my password. I'm going to put my password in. And there it is there. It's installing it. Right here, you can see this blue line. Installing Htop. And there it is. Now I can launch it or remove it or just close the Software Center. I'm going to close the Software Center. What I'm going to do is open up Htop. Let's click this on. Let's go to administration. Let's open up Htop. So this is a virtual machine, and this is Linux Mint Cinnamon Debian, LMDE. Now there's 4 different types of Linux Mint. So this one bypasses Ubuntu. It's not based on Ubuntu. It's based on Debian, and it's running at, I gave this virtual machine 4 gigabytes of RAM, and the installer automatically matched my RAM for swap space, and it gave it 4 gigabytes of swap space. So like I said, there's 4 processors, and right now we're running at 807 megabytes of RAM. The processors are calm because I don't have any other apps open or software open. The processors are calm, like I said, and there you go. That's Htop. Now you have a lot of other tools in here. If we go to accessories, well, we have calculator. It comes installed by default. You have a USB image writer, so you can use this to write a Linux ISO or even a Windows ISO to a thumb drive and to make it bootable. That comes installed by default. What else do we have here? We have Thunderbird, the email client, and I talked about Thunderbird in my last video. This is an email client that's installed by default. Okay, now I don't have any email programmed into here, so it looks the same as it did in my last video. Okay, but it's easy to set up and easy to use, and it's similar to Microsoft Outlook. So that Thunderbird is installed by default in Internet here. And what else do we have? And I'm not going to show you everything that we have in here. There's also a USB stick. So there's USB image writer. That's for writing a live ISO of another Linux distribution or of Windows to a thumb drive. This would be a thumb drive formatter. If you just want to format a stick, let's click it on. Okay. Let's go back to settings. So this is system settings. Let's open the screen. We have screensaver. I always turn this off. I don't like the screensaver going on. Okay, and we can go back to the settings. There's power manager. Let's click it on. I don't like my computer going to sleep. So I change this to never, 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 and I leave all this off, okay? I change this to power button, should shut the computer immediately, okay? And there's also Bluetooth. Oop, there's the Bluetooth. Comes with a firewall installed by default, but it's turned off. So I always go and turn it on. I click it on. Asks for your password, so you're going to put your password in. Okay. And then you can see it's off here. I'm just going to toggle it on. Now it's on. And the default is deny all incoming and allow outgoing. But you can change the roles, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So like I said, the firewall is installed by default, but it's turned off. You have to go in and turn it on. Now we also have an update manager. Now see this little doohickey here? You hover over it, it says your system is up to date. Now I'm going to click it on. Now when it's time to do an update, this little icon here is going to be red. It's going to have a red dot in it. So let's click it on anyways. Oops. It says your system is up to date. Oh, I forgot to talk about wallpapers. So this is going to be a longer video than I thought. Let's right click anywhere here. And I forgot to show you display settings. So you can change your display settings. I have it set at 1360 by 768 because it's a virtual machine, and that's the best way that my virtual machines show. Otherwise, it's too small, and I want you to be able to read it on the screen. Okay. And let's close that. Now we can right-click it on here. Change desktop background. So it comes with all these wallpapers. Go to the top here. These are the Linux Mint wallpapers. These are Vanessa wallpapers, Vera wallpapers, Victoria. So these are wallpapers that came with previous versions of Linux Mint. And these are the names of the different versions of Linux Mint. These are Wilma. So let's click one on. I don't know. Anyone, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Click it on. And let's just minimize this. And that's how you change the wallpaper. And let's try this one. Oh, let's do Snowy Mountain. Okay. And now, of course, if you want to just go to the default wallpaper, that's this. And actually, when I first started using Linux Mint 5 years ago, because that was my first distribution, this was the wallpaper, this one here. So that was the wallpaper that came installed by default when I first started using Linux Mint, and I really liked it. And of course, so all those wallpapers come installed by default, and of course, you can put your own wallpaper in there. You can go on the internet and download some wallpapers, or if you want to put a picture of your spouse or your children or your pet, your dog, your cat, you can put that in there as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go have another virtual machine of Linux Mint that hasn't been updated. So I'm going to show you how to update. Okay, so I closed that virtual machine of Linux Mint and I opened up another one that I have. And this one hasn't been updated for a few months. And you can see here, because I want you to see this, and I hope it's not too small. I hope you can see it on the video. But this icon right here has a red dot in it. Okay? That red dot means there's updates to do. And even if I hover over it, you can see it says 10 updates available. So let's click it on. And these are the updates. 10. And you know what? I'm just going to refresh it. Now, the thing about updating in Linux is that when you update in Linux, you don't always have to reboot. Most of the time, you do not have to reboot. You only have to reboot when it updates the kernel. But if it's just updating some other packages or your web browser or some of your other apps, you don't have to reboot like you do with Windows. And updating in Linux doesn't take nearly as long as updating in Windows. Okay, so we have 12 updates to do. And we can see it's updating Firefox. It's updating Thunderbird, which is the email client. It's updating the kernel. So you know what? I'm going to go through an update, and I'll probably pause the video. There's 12 updates, so it should only take about 5 minutes. And what time is it? It's 11:36. It's almost 11:37. So there's 12 updates to do. One of the updates is the kernel. Right here, it's updating the kernel, which means we're going to have to reboot. So let's turn it on. There's 12 updates to do. You can see the red dot there. Let's do install updates. I'm going to click OK. Oh, it's going to ask me for my password, so I'm going to put my password in. And it's downloading and installing the updates. Now, the thing is that updating in Linux doesn't take nearly as long as it does in Windows. It's not going to take hours. There's only 12 updates, so I think this is only going to take 5 minutes. It might take a little bit longer because there was a kernel getting update. I'm going to pause the video for a minute. And what did I say? It started at 11:37, so it's almost 2 minutes. I'm going to pause the video for a moment or two and come back, so don't go away. Okay, finished. So it took 3 minutes to do the update. Now you can see it says your system is up to date and reboot required. And I knew the reboot was going to be required because the kernel got updated. So like I said before, if the kernel doesn't get updated, if you're just updating the web browser and some other apps and software, like your email client or whatever, you won't have to reboot. Anyways, it didn't take long, 3 minutes. So let's reboot. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on this. And I'm not going to shut down. I'm going to restart. So it's rebooting. And I'm going to come back when I get to the login screen. And actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it rolling, I think. Because I want to show you that when you do an update and a reboot, it doesn't take long like it does in Windows. Okay? I think I'm going to leave the camera rolling. And because when you do an update, sometimes just rebooting in Windows can take 20 minutes or half an hour. You know, the blue screen with the white circle. It says just a moment. Look how fast that rebooted. Now I didn't pause the video. So let's put my password in, my user password, and it's just booting up. And I'm leaving the camera rolling for a reason. Normally at this point, I pause the video until I'm in. But there you go. And now we're in. And now our system is up to date. So there's one more thing I want to show you before I go. So let's go back to the Software Center, the Linux Mint Software Center. And it's this one here with the green dots. Let's open it. And let's make it full screen. And let's say you wanted to install the Brave browser, the Brave web browser. So you could type in Brave. There it is there. You click it on, and like I showed you before, you would click this on and install it. Well, let's go back. And there's OBS Studio. So we could click that on and install it. And let's go back. And they also have other ways of looking for stuff. There's Telegram for social. There's Dropbox. You could go and just click on this and call up internet stuff. You could backspace it. You could call up this icon and call up office stuff. And you could go and let's type in only office. When I made my last video, I talked about 2 different office programs, full-fledged office programs that work both in Windows and Linux. And the reason why I did that in my last video is that I want you to start using programs in your Windows computer to get used to them, to see if you like them before you actually make a switch to Linux. So I talked about 2 office programs that are available in Linux. Actually, I think there's more, but 2 that I know of is Libre Office, which comes installed by default in Linux Mint, like I already showed you. And it comes installed by default in most Linux distributions, but there's only Office. So if you wanted to try only Office, here it is right here. You could click it on and install it. And only Office will automatically, by default, save your Word and your spreadsheet documents in a Microsoft Office format. Okay, so you could install it. Now, let's say you wanted to install Google Chrome. I don't know why. It's spyware. But let's say you wanted to install Google Chrome. What you would have to do is, let's go back. You have to go on to this icon, this little hamburger icon, click it on, go to Preferences, and this was toggled off by default. Show unverified flat packs not recommended. So that was turned off by default. And when I had the camera on pause, I had the camera off. I was trying to do a search for Google Chrome and it wouldn't come up. And I couldn't figure out why, because I know that Google Chrome is available in Linux Mint as a Flatpak. And I'm not going to explain what that is now. I'm already at an hour. This was going to be a 20-minute video, a tour of Linux Mint, 20 minutes. I'm going to have to chop this video down. Anyways, I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, so if you want to get Google Chrome, if you're running Linux Mint and you want to download Google Chrome, once you're in the Software Center, you got to go to this hamburger menu, go to Preferences, and click this on right here. Toggle this one on. Show unverified flat packs not recommended. Now we're going to backspace. Now I'm going to go search for Google Chrome -Chrome. It's searching for it. And there it is. Now you see Google Chrome. See this little red thing here? I don't know if it's going to show up in the video, but they're telling you that red thing is there because the Linux Mint team is kind of warning you that this package from FlatHub, you can see it's coming from FlatHub, has not been verified. But you can download it if you want. I wouldn't use Google Chrome anyways. I don't, because it's spyware. Anyways, you can click it on, and Google Chrome, you can install it. So now I'm going to close that, and that is Linux Mint. In this video, I gave you the grand tour of Linux Mint. Now, I didn't show you everything that Linux Mint has or can do. That would be hours. And already went on a lot longer than I planned. Like right now, I'm just over an hour, and I was only planning to do a 20-minute video. So I didn't show you how to download Linux Mint, and Linux Mint comes with 4 different types of ISOs. I didn't show you which one to pick or how to download it or how to make a live USB thumb drive or how to install it. I just wanted to give you a grand tour. Now, those things I just mentioned that I didn't do in this video, I've done them in many videos in the past, specifically with Linux Mint. And I might do them again. I'm thinking I'm going to do them again. But in this video, I just wanted to give those people who are on Windows 10 and thinking of switching to Linux a grand tour of Linux Mint. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really helps it out. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mensch.